Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Janana Talk. In today's episode, we will cover what life in ancient Rome was like and how it was affected by significant events. One might think ancient Rome was a great place to live in. Well, I only have one thing to say to that. I dare you to live there. You would be led by a government that had constant internal conflict, found assassination as a solution, didn't let foreigners become citizens for a long time, and gave women practically no rights. The people were divided into the government patricians, the average working plebeians, and the non-citizens. Practically the only significantly beneficial event in Roman history would be the defeat of Carthage, which led to the expansion of trading potential, and which all crumbled when some people in the government decided it was a lovely day to assassinate Julius Caesar and turn Rome into the empire they had fought to prevent. One could say, what about the wealthy patricians? Their lives were extravagant. Despite their lavish lifestyle, you wouldn't expect someone to be particularly sane if they had death battles as entertainment, lived with the stress of political activity, were led by twisted values, and if they lived off the quite normalized oppression of their slaves. In short, life in ancient Rome sucked. Something I cannot deny is that the patricians lived grandly. Regular citizens, or plebeians, were the common people and were mostly farmers and tradesmen. They sometimes could achieve great wealth, but would never achieve a higher rank, as seen in Source 2, an artist impression of the ancient Roman marketplace, where some plebeians appear more successful than others, but still very distinguished from the patricians. On the other hand, patricians, who were the higher-ups in Roman society, were born in wealth and were elevated because of their political power and their place in the government. As we can see in Source 4, a painting of an ancient Roman banquet, the patricians ate around a curved table, while they were attended to by slaves. They ate, drank, and vomited repeatedly, just to eat more, as seen in the bottom right corner. While this could be an enjoyable lifestyle, something often overlooked in the lifestyle of a patrician is the stress of a life that revolves around politics. Patricians were the only people allowed in the Senate, and had the responsibility of making important decisions. Aside from this stress, they would also have some psychological problems caused by the fact that one form of entertainment for them would be gladiator fights, and the fact that they also lived off slave labor, which would definitely mess up their perspectives on life. Therefore, patricians may have appeared to live well, but life as a Roman citizen deep down would not be satisfactory. Aside from citizens, let's address the untold story of the women. Women in ancient Rome were not allowed to become citizens, so all records of them come from patrician men. In Source 7, an excerpt from Women of the Ancient World, explaining the life of ancient Roman women, we can see that the life of women was very dependent on a male relative. Women would be under the full authority of their husbands, and were not allowed an education unless they were of a higher rank. Poor women struggled to eat well without men, since they were not allowed the gift of grain given to men to share with their family. It is still important, though, to acknowledge life in Rome as a middle-class or patrician woman may not have been as hard as poor women. Patrician women would have been well taken care of, and the average free woman would live life adequately. Aside from this, a woman was still a woman. They were of a lower rank, and their purpose was housework and giving birth, as seen in Source 8, a statement from historian Mark Cartwright. This label was so fixated on women that Emperor Augustus himself stated that nature has it so that we cannot live with women particularly comfortably, but we can't live without them at all. This mutual dependence that had men as an authority over women seems a little unfair, so life as a dependent, pigeonholed, insignificant woman would be, to say the least, a little miserable. One thing I can say about Rome is that it would not have achieved the height it had reached if it weren't for the defeat of Carthage. The Punic Wars were a series of wars that occurred between Rome and Carthage, a city in North Africa. They were fueled by the desire for control around the Mediterranean Sea, which was extremely crucial because of its trading routes. The Third Punic War, which lasted from 149 BC to 146 BC, was the event that sparked the beginning of Rome's glory days. After Rome's victory over Carthage in the Second Punic War, Carthage was sick of Rome's constant demands to Carthage to practically dismantle their own city. And with that, the Third Punic War had begun. In Source 21, a statement from historian Joshua J. Mark, we can see just how badly Rome terrorized Carthage, going to lengths to burn and destroy the city, while enslaving their 50,000 Carthaginian survivors. In the end, Rome had transformed from a small city to a powerful empire, gaining territorial and trading power. But with power came enemies. One could say that the Punic Wars caused more tension between Rome and other cities, as well as leading to the eventual overwhelming amount of land that caused Rome to fall. This would not be incorrect, as Rome did become well more known, and therefore a larger target. However, the defeat of Carthage was crucial for the rise of ancient Rome, and without the rise of ancient Rome, you wouldn't be listening to anything today. Just like today's sponsor, Woohoo Crafts. With Woohoo Crafts, you can get your custom minifigs for only around $6. Contact saplingmapletree@gmail.com for your custom minifigurines now. Ancient Rome was one of the world's most important civilizations of its time. Emphasis on was. One of the reasons why it fell was the reign of Julius Caesar. He had had many prestigious titles before becoming Rome's official dictator, such as being one of Rome's 2 consuls. He appointed himself as dictator in 49 BC and advertised himself by making taxes easier, conquering Gaul, granting citizenship more generously, and creating minor emergency services such as fire brigades and police forces. As seen in Source 29, a statement from historian Donald L. Wasson, he created a large impact on Rome, even rebuilding Carthage, but with more power came corruption. His power superseded that of the original structure of the 2 consuls, and he made Rome exactly what the government had feared, a civilization all under the authority and power of one man. So they conspired together to eliminate him, of course. Together as a group of around 60 senators, Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus led the assassination of Julius Caesar on March 15, 44 BC, and stabbed him 23 times while he was in a Senate session. Thinking this would solve Rome's power problem, the senators would have been shocked to see that the entire city went into panic, and instead of giving support, they were confused, as Julius Caesar had been a pretty good ruler. This event caused distress to spread, which would make life worse in ancient Rome. After this event, all of Rome went downhill. It turned from a republic to an empire shortly, and that's how it began to lose control and a civil war broke out. Several significant events soon led to the destruction of ancient Rome. The inevitable fall of ancient Rome happened on September 4th, 476 AD, and it had all started because of the death of one man. Arguably, the assassination would have been one of the most significant events in Roman history, but you could argue that either way Rome would have fallen, since Julius Caesar would have expanded Rome until he lost control, again resulting in the Civil War, and it would inevitably end up in the same downward spiral once he died. Overall, the fall of Rome would have happened anyway, and the assassination of Julius Caesar would have just sped up the process while causing some distress among the public over an uncountable amount of drama. In summary, the sad life of patricians, insignificant existence of the non-citizens, the Punic Wars, and the assassination of Julius Caesar all add up to my evaluation that ancient Rome was a pretty dull and depressing place to live in. Living in the S-class would be mentally exhausting, living in the middle class would be boring, living as a non-citizen would be depressing, and living generally with all the stuff going on would make a regular sane person feel helpless. So after all that, I suggest you switch to truth. Anyway, I hope this podcast was so good by Hyunjin, and don't forget to check out today's sponsor. Enjoy the rest of your life because you don't live in ancient Rome.